All right, welcome back to another episode and a late episode, late night, late live recording of Shadow of the Apple. Currently May 22nd, 12 a.m. on the East Coast. But we're getting it in. So let's not really sugarcoat it. Mets and Yankees both played a 4-game series and pretty eventful on both sides, Ryan.
Yeah, not much really to be excited about, not much really to worry about, I would say. It's just both teams split against division rivals. And in the Yankees case, it was against the Toronto Blue Jays at home. Would have liked, of course, more than a split, but um, they won the first two games. The first game was led off by Paul Goldschmidt hitting another leadoff home run, his third of the year, once again breaking his record for the oldest Yankee to hit a leadoff home run. Then he hit an RBI double, and at some point later on in the game, Cody Bellinger hit a two-run home run to tie it up. Jazz hit a two-run home run to put them ahead. They never looked back and then took that one.
Yeah, it was a very back and forth game.
Yeah,
You had Ernie Clement hit a 3-run homer to put the Jays up early. George Springer with his, I believe his, not, I think it was 2,000, was it 2,500 hit or 1,500 hit? I think 1,500 sounds more realistic. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to remember everything because I kind of wanted to get this all fresh in my brain. And then he also hit a really, really clutch home run. So it was a tight game the whole way, but it was a back and forth game. There was a lot of home runs hit. It was a pretty entertaining game from an outsider's perspective.
yeah, the whole series was really close, back and forth. All the games were by one run, except for tonight's game. That was the Blue Jays won by 2-0. But go back to the second game of the series. Also back and forth, close game. Final score 5-4. The Yankees won. Ryan McMahon, Ben Rice both homered in that one. This is where I've been talking about these stats with Judge and Rice being duos in Yankees history with a certain amount of home runs throughout a certain amount of games.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I I,
yeah,
I just saw that. I think the stat is Ben Rice and Aaron Judge are the second Yankees duo to hit 16 plus home runs before the team's 50th game since Yogi Berra and Mickey Mantle in
yeah. So only the
1956.
second duo all time with 16 homers, 16 or more homers throughout before the team's 50th game. So impressive stuff there. But neither of them showed up in the second two games of the series. I mean, yeah, the last two games of the series. Uh, they were two close games. Final score of 2-1. Blue Jays won yesterday. Blue Jays won 2-0 tonight. They're both really close, but I would say the excitement levels of both were completely different. Yesterday's game was very exciting because you had the big matchup of Cam Schlittler versus Trey Savage. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
both pitchers did their thing, went deep. Schlittler ended up biting first, gave up two runs. One of them was on a bases loaded walk in a long, I think, 10 pitch at bat with Jimenez, and then the bullpen came in, ended up giving up one of his base runners, so he gave up two runs. Savage
Yeah,
ended up
he gave
giving
up
none.
the sack fly of Laddie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so the Blue Jays scored their 2 runs not even on hits.
yeah, I mean that's the kind of team they are. After the game, Cam Schlittler said it perfectly. He said they're a team that's going to BABIP the shit out of you, and that's exactly what happened. Uh, so later on in that game, Giovanni Cruz, who was in the Yankees minor league system this year, he was not drafted by them. Pretty sure they got him from the Red Sox system after he was released or became a free agent this offseason. But he made his debut. He's a flamethrower. A lot of fans have wanted to see him come up this year because we've had the bullpen issues. So he finally made his debut. He threw two perfect innings with three strikeouts. He hit 101 miles per hour. So that was nice to see, having possibly a high leverage guy in the bullpen going forward. We'll get into that because that's not the case. But the fourth game, which was tonight's game, I would say was complete opposite. It wasn't a fun pitchers duel like the last one. It was just very boring on both sides. Both teams had very unclutch hitting. Really couldn't do anything. It wasn't the best, but yeah, the Blue Jays scored their 2 runs on the first inning. Carlos Rodon gave up a double, just like back to the BABIP. He hit I forget who it was, but hit a double right off the third base bag to score a run, and they didn't score again all the way till late when George Springer hit a solo shot. So there was a lot of it was basically a boring baseball game, both sides, but the Blue Jays had the most fun because they ended up winning. So that's where the series split.
Yeah. Something I
Yeah,
want to add that in the third game, that a stat that I saw is that Tracy Savage set a season high with 8 Ks. He tied his high with 6 innings pitched, and he pitched scoreless ball for the third time. So um, they both, him and Schlittler, both kind of popped off towards the end of last year, going into the postseason. Um, so it's interesting to see these new generation of pitchers slowly starting to show what they can do full time in the regular season.
yeah. Savage started the year on the injured list, but he's working his way back. I thought he would be on like a pitch count, but didn't look like it. It looked like he went deep until he couldn't anymore. So solid start by both starters, but Savage won that one. Uh, so yeah, right now after the series, the Yankees sit at 30-21, just 4.5 games back of the Rays. That happened pretty quickly, but they have a chance to make it much closer. And the Rays come into town, starting a 3-game series tomorrow night. So we'll see what happens with that. But starting tomorrow, Garrett Cole is coming back. He's going to make his first start since October of 2024. So we'll look forward to that. It's going to be exciting. He reached 100 miles per hour on his fastball, and he was averaging around 97 in his last rehab start. So it looks like, he's not holding back any of his stuff. He'll probably be on a pitch count. I'd assume he'd go around like 75 pitches maybe. But it's going to be exciting to see him back. And also Jose Caballero should be coming back tomorrow night. He'll probably be in the lineup. But like I
Yeah,
was mentioning, no, you go
yeah,
ahead. What?
yeah. Interesting. Just sorry to cut you off. I wanted to add, just like interesting to see that 2 games that the Yankees won were high scoring. Back and forth games, while the Blue Jays 2 wins were defensive pitching duels.
Yeah. Uh, the whole
So
series was just like a back and forth close games. So
yeah. Would you say what would you say about what would you say the series says about Toronto? Because obviously they had the season they had last year. They've gone off. They started off a little bit slow. They are kind of like the Mets, where they have a similar record towards the Mets, and they're kind of in the spot where they kind of need to start winning games, and they need to start building some wins soon.
yeah, for sure. The Blue Jays, they've dealt with a lot of injuries this year. Their record doesn't show it, but they're still a great team. They still have a lot of great pieces. Uh, they're gonna have Savage for more of this year than they did last year. They have Dylan Cease now. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, so there's not. They're a team. They're a much better team than their record shows because they've been dealing with injuries. They got a lot of guys coming back soon. So this is like I've been saying the last few episodes. I personally see the Blue Jays still as the biggest threat for the Yankees in the East going forward, long term. But of course, you can't count the Rays out. You have to see how it plays out. This next series coming up, it's going to show a lot because they already swept the Yankees in Tampa. So we'll see what happens
Mm-hmm.
in these next 3 days. But the corresponding moves to Cole and Caballero coming back. The Yankees optioned Spencer Jones, which was kind of expected. We knew he wouldn't be up here for too long. It was just for injuries to see what he can do against Major League pitching for now. See what he's got to go work on when he goes back down. But the pitching movement was Giovanni Cruz, which was pretty controversial. I don't really like the move too much, but it makes sense. He's pitched the last 2 days, so they probably wouldn't be using him much in this next series. But that's still not an excuse. I think it's mostly because they have Paul Blackburn and Ryan Yarbrough, who are both two long relief guys. I think it's a waste of a spot to have both those guys on the roster. I'm sure they'll figure it out as it goes on, but there's been a lot of compliments of the Yankees being they had a lot of urgency with a lot of their moves they've made this season so far. And I feel like this is the opposite of that. He came up, he had 2 perfect innings in his major league debut. He pitched again tonight, didn't give up any runs, only 1 hit. So, you have bullpen issues, and you have a guy come up who pitches really well, but then you option right back down afterwards. It's a little disappointing to see, but I guess it makes sense from a baseball standpoint. He has options. To move Blackburn or Yarbrough, you'd have to DFA one of them. So
No, not Paul Blackburn.
yeah, Mets legend too. But yeah, so hopefully we can do some work to get closer in the AL East. But a long way to go even after this series. One thing I do want to mention though, it's just been a fun story. Jazz Chisholm, I don't know if you've heard this, but he's been wearing Giancarlo Stanton's pants and using Jose Caballero's bat for the last week or so.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's had a rough start to the year, and he's been playing much better. May 15th is when this started. I mean, I would love to know how that
Interesting.
conversation went. I would love to know how that conversation went. Did he approach Stanton and just say, "Can I wear your pants tonight?"
It's a very interesting
I really wonder how that went. I
conversation to
mean,
have in the locker room for
yeah, I
man.
know. They asked Stanton about it, and he said, "The pants have some homers in them, so if he can't be using it, he's on the injured list. Might as well let Jazz try and get them." But since May 15th, when this started, Jazz is hitting 444 with a homer, 5 runs, 4 RBI, and 4 walks. So I mean, if it's working, keep going. I don't see a reason to stop.
Yeah. I mean, whatever works, I guess. I don't know. Baseball's a weird sport.
Yeah, now Jazz says he's a very superstitious guy. So
Yeah,
it worked the first night. He didn't want to change it.
baseball's a very superstitious sport as well. So I don't know if you feel like that. I feel like baseball's
Oh
a very
yeah,
superstitious
yeah,
sport.
for sure. I mean, I just saw
There's a lot
a
of
video.
unwritten rules and all that not all
Yeah,
that
I
stuff.
just saw a video right before this of someone interviewing the Pirates players about some of their walk-up songs, and a few of the guys said they've been using the same song for a while. They don't want to change it because they've had some of their best seasons using that song. So
Yeah.
I don't think a song really can affect how you play, but I mean, whatever works. So
Whatever you think works. I mean, the Mets felt like they were winning because a purple. What do you even call Grimace? He was a taste bud. I think he's a taste bud. They had a purple taste bud throughout a first pitch. So I mean, I don't really put anything past this sport sometimes.
yeah, I mean the
But
OMG song helped the Mets too that year. So
yeah,
maybe
man.
songs do help you win baseball games.
Yeah, man. Jose Iglesias, the GOAT. So I'm looking back at the Rays going into this series. So kept scrolling back to see when was the last time they lost a series, and I don't think they've lost a series since April when they played the Reds because they won a series against. They swept the Twins. They won 2 out of 3 against the Guardians. They swept the Giants. They swept the Blue Jays. They took 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox. 2 out of 3 against the Rays again, this time in Toronto. 2 out of 3 against the Marlins, and then they just swept the Orioles. So they have won now multiple series in a row. So if you want to count that, I didn't count myself when I did this, but they've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 series going into this series against the Yankees. So the Rays have been exceptional going into this series. So I mean, I really haven't been following them. So I mean, they're in your division. So I'm assuming you know more about the Yankees you know more about the Rays and why they've been this good.
Yeah, I forget their exact record, but I think they're 21-4 or something like that in their last 26 games.
Wow.
It's up there. So I'm pretty sure that's what I saw earlier.
Yeah,
But
they're
yeah,
8-2 in their last 10.
I mean they've been playing really well. They're off to a great start this year. Like I mentioned earlier, they swept the Yankees earlier in the Trop. So yeah, they remind me a lot of the Blue Jays, specifically the Blue Jays team last year. I mean, they just put the ball in play constantly, and they put you under pressure. They're fast. They'll steal bases. They'll bunt. There was just a play yesterday where a runner stole second base, and then the runner on third stole home. So I mean, they play smart. They play quick. They put pressure on the defense, which is a big thing, and that was a big reason why the Yankees didn't do too well against the Blue Jays last year because I mean you have to have quick and great defense, which the Yankees sometimes struggle with to go through stretches. So, and yeah, but also with the Rays roster, I mean, they have some names. They have Yandy Diaz, they have Junior Caminero. Um, so I mean, they have some guys who can hit for power and contact. They have some really fast guys. We all know Chandler Simpson broke the record of stolen bases when he was in the minors, and now he'll bunt and light up on third base. So there's that. The pitching's been really great for them too. The
Yeah,
rotation and the bullpen.
the Rays have always had a really good farm system of
Hmm.
pitchers for whatever reason. They've just have always had guys develop really, really well. Someone that comes to my mind is Blake Snell came from that system. Um, you got Tyler Glasnow come from there. Shane McClanahan. They've had plenty of really good pitchers come out of their system.
Yeah, I'm not sure if McClanahan's back yet. He might be. I haven't looked into that, but I mean, he's coming back, or he is back at some point this year. So it's another good sign for them. Um, yeah, so I don't. Right now, they're playing hot. The Yankees have to not underestimate them. I don't see why they would. They're currently in first place in the division, and they've already swept them. But in the long term, I just don't see, this roster continuing to play this well. But it's baseball, anything can happen. We saw it with the Blue Jays last year. So,
There's been a pattern with these really good Ray teams that they've always been really good in the regular season, but they haven't been able to really put it together in the playoffs. And that's just because a lot of these guys that are on the team are not experienced. A lot of the Rays are I don't know. There's not really a team in another American sport that I could compare them to, um, but they are constantly changing. They're constantly getting rid of their old player. They're getting rid of players and just replacing with new guys. They're a small market team. They don't spend a lot of money, so they're constantly adding new guys and replacing them. So I think that's, in my opinion. You want my opinion about Tampa? These last few years and the years they've been good. Um, it's definitely because of that. There was a year where they won 100 games and they lost to Boston in 4.
mhm.
Um, so they have some pretty decent guys that they also signed. Like they have former Mets legends Cedric Mullins and Steven Matz on the team. So so their pitching has been pretty decent. I mean, I'm more curious to see just how good their pitching has been. But we'll probably see. We'll probably get to talk about it more.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
that definitely could be more talked about after the series. But it's going to be a pretty big series. The Yankees are 4 games out, so I mean, you take 2 out of 3, and the divisions you're basically back on the Rays back.
Yeah, and obviously Garrett Cole pitching tomorrow night. It's very exciting. We mentioned with Rodon when he came back. You don't expect too much. I don't expect him to come out there and look like the way he did in 2024 or 2023 when he won the Cy Young. But I mean, I expect him to, be the ace. His stuff looked good in on his rehab starts. So I mean, it's smart of them to not waste a start in the minors when they feel like he's ready. Um, I mean, he's the guy you'd want on the mound in this to start off this big series.
So the Rays will have Nick Martinez, Drew Rassman, and Shane McClanahan up.
All
So
right, he's back. Okay.
it should be interesting to see how everything plays out. But
Hmm.
it should be a good series. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
So I think that wraps up with the Yanks. So
Hmm.
pretty good recap. And then I guess we can just kind of transition to the Mets, and they had a pretty chaotic series. Going into just game 1. Game 1 was a pretty interesting game. Just you had Christian Scott pitch 4 innings and a third, 3 earned runs. Once again, didn't really last too long. And they had to rely on their bullpen. You had Daniel Durante, you had Austin Warren, Brooks Raley, Luke Weaver pitched an inning, and then you had Huascar Brazoban pitching some really clutch innings after the Mets gave up the lead. They had They had a 2-run lead going into Brooks Raley pitching. Um, he unfortunately blew the lead. But Brazoban he bended, but he didn't break, and then eventually the New York Mets were able to have a pretty insane 12th inning. They scored, and they ended up scoring 12 runs um, in just a wild game. Wild game. You had Bo Bichette hit a big home run early. He's starting to heat up a lot. It's been pretty important considering how underwhelming he's been, how great he has played in this series. They went up against Jake Irvin, who has had really good success against the Mets in the past, but they were able to definitely get some hits off of him. Um, but the Mets had bases loaded in the 11th, and they were able to get out with Huascar Brazoban, who, by the way, big shout outs to my guy, Huascar Brazoban. He's been a super clutch pitcher for the Mets. He's been able to pitch in the first inning, in the 10th inning, and the 9th inning, and he's been able to get it done. So
Yeah, he started the third game of the Subway Series, I think it was.
yeah,
Or the second game.
he started game 2, and then
Game
they had
two.
game 3
Yeah.
come in. So yeah, so he's been very good. I really he's been a very 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 solid player. Um, but they get the win. They ended up winning 16-7. So a really wild game. They ended up Nationals ended up bringing in a player to pitch, and it was a whole thing where the umpires didn't know that you could bring a player in. I think the rule was that in extras, I think you have to be down more in the regular 9 innings to put a position player to pitch, but in extras it's a little more lenient. So they ended up bringing him in. They kind of threw in the towel after the first few runs that were given up, and the Mets were able to win. So in the second game, that game was pretty interesting too. You had Nolan McLean start. They ended up getting a 5-0 lead to start the game, and they blew it with a inside the park grand slam from James Wood. So I mean, I don't know why there's been so many games recently. I don't know. There was an inside the park home run pretty recently. I think it was the Pirates who had
Yeah, I'm
inside the
pretty
park.
sure there's been 5 inside the park Little League home runs in the last 2 or 3 days, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's been a really weird phenomenon recently. So, but Nolan McLean ended up giving a inside the park Little League home run grand slam. So you could see how that hurt. But that was definitely a turning point in the game. The next inning, McLean ended up giving more runs. But honestly, if you want my opinion, a lot of those runs really weren't his fault. The infield, they ended up bringing up another player, Nicholas Morabito, and the ball was constantly being hit at him, and he was misplaying. He misplayed a few balls, and then in that inside the park grand slam, um, he tried to get the ball, and when the ball went the other side, Tyrone Taylor didn't back him up, so he wasn't able to. The runners were able to advance pretty easily, so they ended up losing the game 9-6. Um, I say out of all the I say between the two games they lost, that's definitely was the most winnable one. Yeah, I mean you were up 5-0, you had your best pitcher starting, and um, he didn't obviously do himself any favors, but he also his defense didn't really give him any favors as well. Um, so that was game 3. Sorry, that was game 2. Um, so going 1-1 to the series, the there was a big turning point with game 3 where you had Zach Thornton pitch his first game. They call him up. Pretty interesting story. His dad was paralyzed, I believe, from the body down. So but his family was there all to see him start. Um, he definitely had his welcome to the majors moment where CJ Abrams hit a 3-run homer to put the Nationals up. Juan Soto had 2 home runs in the game, but it wasn't enough. The Mets ended up losing 8-4. Their bullpen didn't really keep them in the game. You had Craig Kimbrell, who's never been able to go past more than 1 inning, try to go 2 innings. I don't know what Mendoza was thinking. Ended up giving 2 more runs, and then ended up losing the game. But today, the Mets, after losing the 2 games, at that point, at least in my head, you kind of just needed the split. You are going into a series where you could have, it could have been a make or break series for sure. If you took 3 out of 4, you're playing against a team um, that you're trying to catch up with. You want to get back into the mix again after having a really horrible start to the season. Um, But I mean, the worst. It's not the worst thing in the world that you split. So I mean, and in this game, you had David Peterson pitch for the Mets. He was pretty solid, all things considered. Um, he got the job done. Bo Bichette ended up hitting a down the middle single to get 2 runs in. Um, a big play was Mark Vientos with a big dive at first. People have talked about Mark Vientos, if he can really play first, if he's really a first baseman. But he settles in and makes a big play to save the game with the runner on third. Um, and then they had a runner on third with a infield double, or not infield double, it was a bloop double. But Devin Williams got a strikeout and got the ground ball to end the game. Mets ended up winning 2-1. So overall, you can't really complain. The Mets are pretty much in the same spot they were going into the series, and they will play against the other Florida team, the Miami Marlins, this weekend. So that will be a 3-game series. So they can't obviously split that series. We'll see what happens with that. Um, but overall, they overall didn't look too bad. I think there was definitely some concerns with the infield. They were kind of playing like the New York Yankees during the World Series, or honestly, the New York Mets in 2015 World Series with how bad their infield was. However you want to compare bad infielding, but it was on that level of bad fundamental baseball on Tuesday. And overall, I think they're definitely testing, and definitely throwing at what they had. They went dumpster diving with some players like Austin Slater and Andy Ibanez. That
Mhm.
obviously didn't work. So they are now, I guess, trying to bring up their prospects. And I mean, it doesn't hurt. I think if I I rather see the prospects go up, because at least these guys, they have a future, compared to these guys who are like borderline minor leaguers who are not really doing anything or have really done a whole lot in their career.
That's a good
So
point.
you you know Zach Thornton, the lefty, you can only ask so much from him. And then Nicholas Morabito, who had a little bit of a controversy going into this call up. We'll get into that in a minute, but overall, they you split the series. You're back at 6. You are in 4th place now because the Marlins lost their series, and then they'll be able to potentially kind of separate from them in this series. So another big series going up against another division rival.
Yeah, I want to take it back real quick to the Noel McLean game. You know, when you have a team like the Mets, where they're playing, where they have played, and their record, uh, I would say they're playing against an objectively, on paper, worse team. I would say the Mets are a better team on paper than the Nationals are, but
Hmm.
I, I feel like, it's very disappointing to have your ace on the mound, have a 5-run lead, and then end up blowing it, especially in that way. But just in general, I mean, just blowing that game definitely hurts, especially when it could have been. When you look back, could have been taking 3 out of 4 on the road against a division
Yeah,
rival.
yeah. If, 4-game winning a 4-game series is really hard. They
Hmm.
won a 4-game series earlier this year when they played the Giants. So I mean, it's definitely not impossible. Um, but I think if you're the Mets, you take what you can have. You looked at what you have with your prospects. I mean, I honestly I really don't mind this team right now with how young they are. Like like the Mets are in an interesting spot where they signed a lot of guys to like 2-3 year deals in the win now situation. But since these guys either got hurt or aren't really playing to their standards, they're trying I guess they're trying another way of trying to bring this team and give this team some kind of juice, which is calling up their prospects. And um, they've they've done pretty solid. Like I've liked AJ Ewing, Carson Benj I feel like is hitting really well as of recently. Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos are really starting to settle in on their own, and these are guys that you've been kind of waiting to be consistent. They've shown a lot of flashes, especially Beatty and Mark Vientos. And with the Mets injuries, they've had the chance to play. So I'm really happy to see that. Juan Soto also was really good against the Nationals. He was batting 389 with 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 5 runs scored, and a 1.222 slugging percentage across the 4 games. So Juan Soto becoming obviously starting to settle into his vintage self after the injuries. So with all those things coming together, I'm still pretty optimistic about the Mets. Obviously, I was really excited last episode when they took 2 out of 3 against the Yanks. But yeah, I'm still excited to see what this team could do because, the future is now with these prospects. So we're going to see what this Mets team could look like in the next few years.
Yeah.
So the main controversy that happened with Nicholas Morabito was he got called up and he was given Gary Carter's number. So if you do not know who Gary Carter is a Met legend. He was the Mets catcher on the 1986 team, passed away from cancer. I want to say a decade or so afterwards. But the number 8 has not been worn in 25 years. The last time someone wore number 8 for the New York Mets was in 2001, and it was a big deal on if the number should be worn or not. The number's not been retired yet. Gary Carter is a Met legend, but I mean, if you look at his overall career, I mean, he didn't really have that great of a prime. He had 85, 86. And then the few years afterwards, but after that, he had injury issues and he didn't really play. So, I mean, there's a reason why his jersey hasn't been retired yet, and it's no disrespect to Gary Carter. I'm repeating myself. He's a Met legend. But from an output perspective, I don't know how you would feel about a player who hasn't a number who hasn't been worn in a long time, all of a sudden get put on just a prospect, a lot of pressure, especially from the criticism faced just from wearing the number.
Yeah, it wasn't a prospect, but we kind of saw it with the Yankees. Number 13 hadn't been worn since A-Rod retired, and then Joey Gallo ended up taking it when he was traded to the Yankees in 2021, and then now Jazz wears it, of course. So I mean, it's a big difference. It's not that big of a gap. Different reason as to why the number hasn't been worn, hadn't been worn up until that point, but then as to why it was worn and not retired. But yeah, I mean, it is definitely like an interesting situation. I feel like it's more with the Mets situation. It's more of kind of his life after he left the team. The way he passed. I feel like a lot of people probably just want to respect him more and wanted to retire the number, or if like you mentioned, maybe his numbers weren't the best, his prime wasn't the best, to actually have it be a retired number, to make it an unofficial retired number. So I can kind of see how people feel different ways about it. But yeah, at the end of the day, if the number wasn't actually retired and they offered it to him, I don't really see an issue with it. Like,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it is just a number. So.
And what's interesting is that I'm pretty sure he is going to change his number. Like I'm pretty sure he's going to change his number to 55
Okay.
after this series. So after the next series, he's going to change his number. So yeah, so right, if you go on his Wikipedia already, it says that he's wearing number 55. So, it's interesting how the number is not retired, so like he can wear it, but also it's also interesting to see how after 25 years of just nobody wearing the number, all of a sudden it's like boom, oh, it's back. So I mean, I could, like you said, Ryan, I could see both sides. Um, I don't think it's as big of a deal people making it though, because at the end it is just a number. It is just a number.
Mhm.
Um. So yeah, overall, I don't. I think everything it was a little blown out proportion, but that's really all I have to say about this whole series. Pretty chaotic series for every reason. The Mets have some wild games against the Nationals in Washington. Um, I've been to that stadium. Um, it's okay. The food's okay. It's a very just okay stadium, in my opinion. Not really one of my favorites. There's definitely way better stadiums out there. Um, but we'll see what happens in Florida. I've always wanted to go to Miami, so I do want to catch that. They have a club in their stadium, which is really cool. I mean, Miami has a huge club scene, so
I
um,
didn't know that. That's kind of interesting.
yeah, I think they're the one of the. I think they're the only team that has a club in their stadium, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, probably.
Miami is really cool. I do want to check out the city one day, but um, I think that kind of wraps it up for the Mets. I mean, these were both really, in my opinion, they were both really eventful series. They both had some twists and turns going both ways. Both teams um, losing and winning tight games.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and both teams trying to distance themselves in the division. The Yankees trying to get closer to the Rays. The Mets obviously just trying to get back to competing for the division or a wild card spot. So yeah,
yeah. I think before you even talk wild card, you just got to get back in the mix, get back to 500.
yeah, for sure.
If you look at if we look at the division standings, the Mets are currently in fourth. Um, they are up. They are 22-28. They're half a game up on the Marlins. Um, they're 2.5 games out of the Nationals, and then right behind the Nationals is the Phillies. They're at 25-25. So I mean, it's definitely possible to get back in the mix. I think once you get back in your division mix, just back with 500 with the rest of your division, then you definitely can start talking about the wild card. But I think from then it's really just one step at a time with the New York Mets. That's really how you got to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with the Yankees trying to get back first place in the AL East. Just taking one game at a time. I mean, I'd love to see a sweep or at least a series win against the Rays, but it'll be tough. So we'll see what happens. Again, it's only May. Both teams have time to get where they want.
All right, yeah. So I think that wraps it up. Shout out to my New York Knicks for going up 2-0, 2 wins away from an NBA Finals. Uh, and potentially bring a championship to New York City. So I love you, Jalen Brunson. If Jalen Brunson is watching this podcast right now, I love you, Jalen Brunson. He probably is watching this podcast right now because
Yeah, he probably is.
he
Probably
knows.
watching it live too.
Yeah, he probably is. So I know he's watching. So, but that will do it. For our episode, Shout Out of the Apple. Ryan, once again, another great episode. Thank you for joining, and we'll be back for the next series. All right, peace out.